Hello, everyone. Welcome to Blood and Hope Detroit. Yes, this is happening on a Saturday for those who are watching live. Things are switching up this week and the next couple of weeks. But it's okay.
Because life has to life.
Life has to life. Look, we're using our Pride background again for the third time Pride month. That's cool. Everything's good. So, before we begin, this is World of Darkness. If we touch on things that cause you problems, please take a step back, revisit the game if you think you're able to. If not, don't worry about it. We'll do a recap and things will be fine. That being said, joining me tonight is Dengle playing Rufus.
Hello.
And this game is going to be focusing on him tonight. We finally are reaching his. And then we have Cocia, who potentially will be playing Lottie, and also a new character by the name of Motor.
Hello, everyone.
And then we have Nenavar, who's playing potentially William, and a new one named Jim.
Hello.
Then we have Buttons potentially playing Uriel, and a new kindred called, what was it, Nia?
Naya.
So, who wants to do kind of a leading up to the individual nights recap?
Then did a sermon. Came to an agreement with the new coterie that's living in his area.
That is the gist of it.
A lot happened in that night, but that's the important stuff right there. New coterie, Rufus did his big sermon.
Yes.
He also made friends with a certain Nos.
I believe he was already friends with him at that point.
Friends is a little bit extreme.
Yeah. So, do you guys want to touch on some of the individual episodes, or would we like to start from here?
I can do a quick, fast, and in a hurried version. Lottie had some stuff going on in Willow that she wanted to investigate. Went down into a mine, saw this big thing that was made of stone that had this weird symbol on the side of it. William had to do some work for Charlotte to get new blood dolls for the club. The convoy that he was part of got attacked. And the Tremere headquarters is caught on fire.
Yep, that about sums up the wreck that was March 6th. Then leading up to that was everyone's downtime, which I think we'll start with. So, Rufus, is there something that you would like to start on the end, mid to end of February?
Yes. So where we have left everyone at this current juncture seems like a good point of, well, let's figure out exactly who is in his area that he has claimed. So he wouldn't necessarily make huge inquiries, but he would keep an eye out.
Okay. Go ahead and give me... Are you doing this sneakily? Are you going to talk to them? How is he going about doing this?
He would probably make introductions.
Okay.
But he wouldn't necessarily be overly prying if they didn't want to.
Yeah. Then give me charisma, and do you have streetwise?
I do.
Charisma and streetwise.
4 successes.
Okay. So obviously, you know there's 4 that introduce themselves to you in a not super positive manner at first. And then there are a handful of others. There's probably about 10 or 15 that he meets. And I will get you a list later, so it's not clogging up the stream and the game and all that stuff. But there's about 10 to 15 that he does actually get to meet and introduce himself to. Not all of them probably live there full time, or some of them might be on the outskirts, like farther up and things like that, but they're wandering down in occasionally. So he is able to at least make introductions with what he would probably hope would be most of the kindred in that section of Detroit.
You would take note of any other Ravnos, assuming that there are some?
There would be 2.
And if he finds any stray Nosferatu, he would also keep note of them as well.
Unfortunately, none of those, but 2 Ravnos.
Figured as much, but still. To keep note of where his own clan is.
Absolutely. One is a male, one's a female. Is he going to pry for names?
Not initially. Over the course of the downtime, if he runs into them again, absolutely. But just a very quick, hey, I'm sure you've seen the symbols. That's me. I am claiming quote-unquote dominion, as Kat likes to put it, over the area. If you have issues, let me know. And we're going to attempt to be sort of symbiotic relationship. Benefits both of us, rather than just one side.
They are a little bit standoffish and don't really want to mingle too much with Rufus right now, but they aren't hostile or anything like that. So, a good enough first introduction, I think.
Yeah.
The female introduces herself as Katie, but that's it, and the other one does not really give a name. So that would take probably a couple weeks rounding up at everyone and tracking them down and figuring out where they are.
Yeah.
That's not the only thing he could do then, but within the few week period is when he gets to meet everyone. So unless he wanted to see if he could track down other specific people or clans, is there anything else that he would care to do for that first chunk?
You would also keep track of any Zamitsi that did show up, or did like say, "Hey, I'm here," but again, wouldn't necessarily be, as long as they're not part of Cat's brood. He doesn't really care.
You probably would have seen 1 or 2 of them on the borders, but not actually in your domain, just kind of scoping out the edges of it. And they would be cordial to you, but none in your domain itself.
But yeah, no, besides that, no. No
Okay.
specific clans.
So for the rest of the coterie, is there anything they would like to do with Rufus for that first chunk of time?
That hasn't already been done, I don't think.
Okay.
At least on Uriel's part.
Yeah, just checking in and making sure no one wanted to interact with Rufus specifically about anything.
Yeah, I
Same
think
with Lottie.
Brian's got a hazard as well.
I'm sorry?
I think William's good on his end as well.
Okay. So moving on to the next kind of chunk. We are on early March at this point. Was there anything else that Rufus would like to do?
Yes, as a matter of fact. He would like to make his way into the school since it's getting less chilly.
Mm-hmm.
Still not warm, but probably less snow on the ground. Easier to hide that somebody's coming in and out.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, as he's
And-
doing that, he would notice some footprints. There is probably 1 or 2 squatters in there at this point.
But he would start cleaning up the school, like moving debris into a central area. If he can do some of like the old cracked paint or old burnt paint removal, he would start doing that by hand,
Okay.
like scrapers and such. So
Yeah, that is a lot of hard work. Would he enlist anyone to help him or just do it by himself?
he would actually ask Chris to help him occasionally,
Okay.
as well as any Thin Bloods that wished to also aid him.
So Chris would do it. Of course, he would come help you. And actually, about half the time he comes to help you, Rose comes with him as well. And they just make small talk with you, and she kind of seems to be not prying, but questioning a little bit more about Rufus and what he's been doing and what he preaches and things like that, and about the book that he gave them.
He would answer fairly truthfully, actually, as far as like what he's been preaching and what he's been doing.
Okay.
As far as a lot of his is about, well, acceptance of both yourself and other people, because people are terrible, and that's what he wants his flock to remember: is people suck. So just because they suck doesn't mean you have to.
Okay. She seems to very much like that. She seems to have heavy interest and is definitely into it maybe more than one would expect. Seems that she potentially was fairly religious when she was human and has been struggling with being a kindred and trying to incorporate that.
He would offer, if she wants a little bit more involvement and potentially guidance in that aspect, he would offer what he can. He would be 100% honest with her of he hasn't always been the best person for that, and lately it's gotten better. So he understands the struggle.
Yeah, she would definitely take him up on that. Maybe not at first, but progressively the more she comes, would absolutely take him up on that.
A point to note, he would not let the bond with Chris get any lower than it is, and he would also keep up the bond with the ghoul as well.
Of course. We'll kind of hand wave the roll checks for that, because downtime and all of that stuff. And then I could not find her first name, unfortunately, but Robinson would find him several times throughout the weeks to check up on him and see how he's doing and if he needed anything.
He would be receptive of her and respectful of her. Wouldn't necessarily enlist any help from, for obvious reasons, technically illegal. But as far as if he needs anything, maybe little things just to keep up appearances of, hey, can you go run some sandwiches over here on others people or over there? Yeah. Just like small food and water type deals. And he would supply them, obviously.
Okay. She would happily do so. Any of that he would ask her. But she would come several times. Probably at least once a week, maybe once every other week.
Yeah. Like I said, he wouldn't really have a whole lot for her to do.
Yeah, she just seems to be very happy to be able to do anything for him. So, and if no one else for the coterie had things for him to talk about for this
This week,
last half,
William will probably send a sample of the song he was working on for Reverend.
okay. Did I have you roll a check for that?
Yes, I believe it was 5. Let me double check.
That sounds right.
Five.
Okay. So, you get a pretty good sample.
Actually impressed, he would respond back rather quickly of, this is actually very good work. I expected something a little bit, not more jazzy, but less fitting.
Like I told you, I grew up around in the choir, so I know how to work with religious music as well.
I do appreciate it. At least it's not disco, right?
Yep, definitely.
Okay. So yeah, you get that sample. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Stop
I made
being
a joke.
disruptive. Oh man. Okay. So during this couple of weeks, Spike would actually find Rufus and give an update as to what they have been doing. They had, I believe, been looking into Cass and trying to find... I don't remember if they were trying to find Fred or not. I don't believe so. Oh, they were.
He had asked.
That was part of it.
He had asked, but if they couldn't, it wasn't a huge deal.
Okay. So they have... Spike informs him that they did see Cassidy a few times, but weren't able to get too much information and didn't want to provoke a fight as she had several other kindred around her.
Thank you for the information. It's probably best to keep your distance, especially given she may not necessarily know that you're here yet. Keeping you a surprise is probably for the better.
Right, most of it was through the cat, but we felt it probably not a good idea to start anything when there was about 7 other people with her.
Any distinguishing marks that you can tell me?
One of them was a Nosferatu.
Potentially not good, but it's fine.
Another one was a gangrel, but not too many others. They looked pretty brutish for the most part.
She's a bruja herself, so
Yeah, that's what I remember you saying. Or someone saying.
I do appreciate the information. You said there were about 9.
Including her, yeah. Well, 7. But we didn't get an exact count. There might have been 1 or 2 people that were different a couple of the times.
Again, I appreciate it, and the information is noted, and I will uphold my end, given you have looked into it and you have gotten me information. So I am a man of my word, and you're free to stay here, and if you need help resolving issues, by all means, let me know.
Will do. Good for now. Just wanted to fill you in on what we found so far.
If you find anything else, by all means, let me know. It's good for me to at least know. We didn't have a very good first step together, so I feel like she's...
Right. Well, we didn't really know you were there, to be fair.
Oh no, me and her. Us two, well...
Oh, you and Cassie didn't have a good first...
No, she's... She gets agitated very fast.
Isn't that typical Bruja?
It is, which is unfortunate. However, at least Buffy's seems a lot nicer.
She has got her moments.
We all have our moments.
Was there anything else you needed us to do? Or just keep looking into Cassidy?
If you can find more information on Cassidy, that would be great, but no, I don't. Stay safe for me.
Will do. And he kind of fades off. And kind of between a couple different people that are walking, just appears to be a random citizen.
Okay.
All right. So, any other things before we move on to the 6th?
During the few moments that Rufus does have, he is going to be transcribing the information that he has in his van onto his new fancy computer that is probably like 4 or 5 years old already.
Okay. That's easy enough. I won't make you do rolls for that. That's just, I picture pluck, 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 pluck.
Oh, he used a typewriter when he was...
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Still not fast. It's just...
He deletes the Word document every time he makes a mistake.
No.
No, he can at least function in that regards. All right, so actually give me just a resolve roll and let me know how many successes you have.
2.
Okay, so he gets a decent chunk of it done. He probably would have wanted more, but a decent chunk.
I'll take it.
So you resolve a good one for that. Okay. So then, as the morning comes on March 5th, he beds down. Has he fed on his preferred substance in the past day or two?
I would assume so.
Okay. Just making note of it is all. So the night ends for the 5th. The morning comes, day sleep happens, and then can I get a rouse check for the night of the 6th?
I fail.
Okay. So how you were at 2 hunger, we'll call it now. Assuming, obviously, he would have
Yes.
fed through the downtime. So, the beginning of his night is relatively quiet. No outstanding text from the coterie or anything like that. Is there a way he would like to begin this night?
Much like he normally does. Gathers his things, he gets himself ready, he fixes his hair, fixes everything, polishes his shoes and jewelry, and will head off in no particular direction. Just to try to find something that seems interesting.
Okay. Is he going to feed, or is he leaving the hunger at 2?
He thinks it's going to be okay for right now.
So yeah, the first couple hours, he has no issues. The streets are maybe a little bit more bare than he would have anticipated and have seen lately, but there doesn't appear to be any real problems. After 2-3 hours of a weirdly quiet night from the coterie, he does get a message from Borea asking, "Where are you at?"
He would look at the closest crossroad and just give them that information.
Thank you. Someone will come to see you soon.
Pull over, and I will wait for them.
Okay. And a decent amount of time passes. Maybe half an hour. Is there anything he would like to do while he waits?
I don't think he would. I think he would just kind of sit there listening to music, whatever is on the radio.
Okay. There is plenty of stations to choose from. A lot of either country or classic rock to flip through.
Seems like a classic rock
Alternative
person.
stations. Classic rock? Okay.
Seems like, yeah.
So, after waiting probably more time than one would have expected, he hears a couple taps on his passenger window. And as he looks at it, Vincent is there.
He will unlock the door.
And Vincent gets in and sits down.
Good evening.
Katarzyna has a request for you.
I assume it's a large one since you're here.
There are worrying things happening in the domain right now, and she wanted you to sit at the church to make sure nothing happened. She assumed you would prefer to do that.
I can be in my normal spot if anybody needs to come find me.
Of course. It is a peace offering, and she assumed you would want to be the first to know if something happened. There have been new people entering the domain tonight, and the rest of everyone are checking them out.
Is problematic, but I guess it's to be expected sometimes. How many are we talking?
Enough that most of the brood have gone. I didn't get an entirely full story, but it seems there is problems everywhere.
Well, I guess we should start heading that way. Do you need a ride, or are you parked nearby?
I do not have a vehicle, so if you could take me.
Please forgive the mess. I'm sure it's not terrible, but it is there.
He'll just wave his hand.
And Rufus will put it in drive and head toward the church.
Okay. Vincent would not begin any small talk, but if Rufus wanted to make some on the drive there, let me know.
You wouldn't be anything major, knowing that Vincent isn't overly social. Doesn't want to make him uncomfortable.
He just appears to be kind of gazing out the window and tapping his fingers on the door panel. Like he very much wants to just get back to what he was doing.
Kind of what I expected.
Eventually, you pull in, and it seems to be relatively quiet so far. And almost immediately as you pause the vehicle, he opens the door. Some of them will be checking in with you throughout the night, but did you need anything before I leave?
I don't believe so. If I need something, it would be something to eat, and it's not something that I'd be willing to take from you, especially given cat.
It would not be offered. And he closes
as well.
Closes the door as Rufus says that and begins to walk away.
Shortly after he closes the door, he's like, all right, stay safe.
He'll get kind of a wave over the shoulder, but Vincent is already quickly walking away.
Rufus would gather all of his things, and he would actually gather the safe as well. He would take it with him.
Okay. So where would he like to go sit?
It would be the upper balcony where the organ used to be.
Okay.
All the way in the back of the church over the main entrance.
Okay. So, give me wits and awareness.
Two.
Okay. So for the first stretch of time, nearly an hour, there is no one that he can hear just outside or coming into the building or anything like that. You can't see anyone walking through the stained glass windows or anything like that.
Okay.
Seems to be relatively quiet for the first period of time. And then after maybe another 20 minutes to half an hour, there is someone walking up, but they don't appeared to be making themselves hidden.
You will remain silent and just keep watching them as they walk up.
So, as they walk closer, he can recognize this person as Varia. And she comes up to the doors and pushes them open and calls out Rufus's name quietly.
Would respond with a, "Yes, I'm here."
Good. We've been all over, everywhere. How has it been here?
Seemingly quiet.
I was the closest one here, and she'll begin to make her way up. And as she rounds the upstairs, he can see that the thing that she had done with her mouth has been fixed, and she is a normal appearing face right now.
Okay.
Teeth are still a bit jarring, but physically, everything looks mostly normal. Things have been crazy lately. Well, ever since the Nosferatu problem.
I thought we're talking specifically about tonight.
Oh, tonight too. Yes, there is a bunch of people running around trying to cause problems. So far, nothing has been majorly hit in the domain, but Kat is making us all check things out.
Have you had anybody that has been hurt yet?
And got into a scuffle, but not actually hurt. And the Brewhog ran away.
Good, I guess.
Would have preferred they didn't get away.
Right, but not everybody can cement people into the ground.
Kat is keeping Selena at home tonight.
Assume. Honestly surprised that she sent Vincent to find me.
Yeah, he was not thrilled. I think it was a punishment.
I would ask questions, but I know better.
Yeah, I'm gotta be careful what I say. Kat wasn't thrilled with what happened last time you were around.
It's for the benefit of the brood, so.
Yep.
Might have gotten in trouble, but it was beneficial.
Right, and that's why I'm still around.
So. Then you have the one singular scuffle that you know of, and no other major issues.
So far that I've been told about.
Should probably get a hold of a couple other people just to check on other things outside of here as well, but good to know that at least you and your family can still do what you used to.
Yeah, well, don't let me keep you. I was just the closest one and figured I'd pop in.
Me keeping you at this point. You're more than welcome to stay if that's what you want and you are able.
I got permission to be here, so I'd like to sit down for a minute or two.
Been a minute since we've actually been able to politely talk.
It has, hasn't it?
Yeah. You will give me just 1 second, and I will check on things elsewhere, and then I will be right back to this conversation. And he will pull out his phone. He will would text one of the coterie members in his area, just a really quick, are there any problems that you know about tonight there?
From Sylvia and her group?
Yes.
Hunter would get back with you, actually. And the message would look to be hastily typed out. There's some misspellings, and it comes rather quickly. 1 or 2 things so far, Sylvia handled them. Get back with you soon.
I am repaying a favor to someone else tonight, so I won't be able to help. However, anything that you need reimbursement for, let me know, and I will attempt to do so.
You'll get the letter M back, potentially it's meaning K, and he just hit the wrong one. Yay, fat fingering the keyboard.
Yeah, he would also reach out to King and Mike as well. Is everything okay there?
You actually would not receive a response from them immediately. After about 10 minutes or so, you would get a response back from Mike saying, "This is not a good night."
It's spread then.
Appears so.
I will, if I am available later and you need help, let me know.
Thumbs up.
Currently doing something to the north of the city and leaving it kind of vague.
We're good for now. Just keeping the technological fires at bay.
Have fun.
So much.
You will leave them alone as well and get back to Varia.
Okay. She would have been on her phone, but sets it down when Rufus seems to be done.
So I do have a question, and if you aren't permitted to answer or shouldn't answer, even if you are permitted, don't. Exactly how close was I to meeting a similar fate to our intruder friend?
Probably closer than you were comfortable with. That's all I'm gonna say.
Closest I've ever been, but close to that. So she didn't hurt you too much, did she?
I'm fine.
thing about us is we heal. The thing about
Yep.
you, Samitsi, is vast majority of you can make it look like nothing ever happened.
Mhm.
Assume physically is what you're meaning by that. Mentally, who knows? One thing that Fleshcraft cannot fix.
Sadly, I have been promoted to runner right now, so that's my new job.
That's the
Yeah.
new jawline.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
I got what I wanted out of it.
It's unfortunate. At least you are still with us and still capable of doing many, many things.
Right. You haven't sent anyone my way recently. Have you given up making the masks?
No, it's just everybody that has needed one hasn't needed a new face. The recent visitor that Kat brought back got one. Inquiries elsewhere, but nobody ever followed through on those. It was very quick. Hey, I think I might know someone, but again. We all might need a new face.
Maybe. I hear other cities are less hectic too.
Cities aren't necessarily as free as we are.
That is true. There have been some strange rumors from down south.
Down south, out east.
A lot of weird things
Out west
happening
at this
lately.
point. People are saying a lot of different things, like elders being called to, well, back home, as it were. And blood popping up all over the place, which seems like we don't have as big of a problem with that, which is probably for the better.
I don't know, we've seen one or two wandering around, not making problems, but
I have one in my employ currently. He seems to be dull gray crayon in a box of rainbow colors. But he's useful.
good for you. I heard you have a domain now.
Sorts. Some call it a domain, some call it a barony, some call it a whatever you want to call it. I have an area staked out that I have claimed for my personal doings.
Barony, did you throw yourself in with the Anarchs?
Depends on exactly who you talk to. Lottie seems to want to be an anarch, so appeasing that sensibility.
Huh. Right.
I would call it a state. Something that doesn't quite fit Zamitsi terminology and doesn't quite fit anybody else, because why not just do something different? I am Ravnos after all, right?
Yep.
for future reference, as long as Kat is allowing of it, you and some of the more trusted of your family are welcome to just come and go as you so please.
Good to know. I'm sure you'll see me. Like I said, I got promoted to runner, so things that shouldn't be done over text I get to handle.
No need to even call. Just come on over if that's what you really need to do.
Good to know. Where's your base of operations where one can find you? I know you have to tend to wander.
I tend to try to stay around the school that shut down some years back.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Really, really big one that had the fire as well.
Yeah.
My current ambition. Very large building that I don't really have a whole lot of use for every bit of it, but I have use for most of it.
Rumor is that you went and saw Valentina. Was that why?
May or may not. That may or may not be true. Being a little bit short on funds, figured the best way to get that is cater to something somebody else wants. Beneficial to me, and they can get something out of it as well. To at least have discussions. Did not
I'm
figure
surprised she met with you.
Oh, I think it was circumstance. Had one of her workers that I had saved from various spot. Returned them personally.
Good for
Figured
you.
Figured that was a good time to at least bring it up. Handed all the information over to Lottie and letting her do inter-clan things. Intra-clan things.
You do
Venture
have
doing venture.
You have quite the odd group with you now, compared to the rest of everyone at least. Most of them try to stick within their own clans.
Yes. William deals quite a bit with Charlotte, and I can't really blame him too much. Lottie, I think Valentina is really the only comfortable spot she knows in the city. I don't know if you heard, but Debbie has opened other locations in other cities. So
That was the Gangrel?
yes, the one with the catering company.
Ah.
And then we have recently come into contact with a... I can't quite remember their last name at this particular time, but a Yuri. It's a Tremere with the pyramid. But they're not really with the pyramid. It's an odd spot. Somewhat
You're hanging out with a Tremere?
For now. They are interesting.
Take your word for
Seems
it.
It seems like they have more substance than the typical Tremere.
Yeah, Cat's thing butts up to theirs. They don't like to interact much with us.
No, unfortunately, it is what it is, though.
You say unfortunately, we say fortunately.
Probably for the better for both of you, though.
Yes. And her phone pings. We've only got a little bit of time left. Was there anything else that you wanted to catch up on?
Nothing that I think it would be wise for you to say out loud. I do have other questions about what has happened and what has put us in this particular spot and why you are doing what you're doing. But I don't think that we should talk about that so much.
Well, hopefully.
Specifically what was seen.
Yeah,
Again,
we're not going to talk
anything.
about that.
Specifically, I didn't see anything is the main point of that.
Good. Let's keep it like that, please. I took a risk sticking my neck out for you. Let's not tempt it anymore.
You do know my clan.
Rufus.
Talk about it because I'm smarter than that. So I do want to, specifically just with you.
I am not able to speak of it.
I will not keep you because I'm sure that you have other tasks to attend to.
Yeah, time for me to get back out there. Someone should be popping in within the next hour or two.
Stay safe, please. I would hate to hear that something has happened and I was unable to keep it from happening with you. I enjoy talking.
For the record, Kat isn't forcing you to stick here. She just thought you might want to.
If there are things that happen in my particular domain that I do need to take care of, I will reach out and let everybody know. But
good.
Until that happens, I will be here.
Right. Then she'll begin the trek down and out. So, if there's nothing you would like to do in the meantime, you can give me another check to keep an ear out.
Three successes.
For the majority of the time, it seems fairly quiet, and again, he appears to be alone. And he is still inside, correct? With a view of the outside?
Yeah.
Okay. Barely visible. It almost seems to be using some of the signs and things to kind of hide behind. He does see some movement, but it's farther out. Not super close.
At this point, he would probably make his way down and make his way over that way just to see what it is.
How quickly would he be going?
Quickly enough that he could potentially actually make it, but not so quickly as to like run.
Okay. Go ahead and give me Dex and Stealth. And you can do Urban.
I got one success.
Okay. Whatever or whoever it was appeared to pause in front of some structures, and then it seems to stop, turn in Rufus's direction, and then kind of bolt in a different direction. So, potentially saw him. They aren't sprinting or anything like that, but he is able to tell that it is a person of some sort.
Okay.
Little bit of an off gait to it, so it is something odd about it, but
He would not want to go too far away from the church, but he would follow. You want to keep the church in eyesight at the very least.
okay. Yeah. So he does begin to follow, and the figure isn't bolting, but they did pick up their pace a little bit. And then give me another wits and awareness. Or you could use investigation and intelligence if you wanted to. A little bit harder of a roll.
No, I'll take wits and awareness. That'd be 4.
Okay. So he does see the figure kind of tuck themselves away briefly. And he does get a little bit more caught up. But then the figure that did put themselves away appears to turn into an animal. A dog or something of some sort. And bolts.
He will not even think twice and just run back to the church.
Okay. So he saw something. Someone.
Yeah.
And as he makes his way back, he does see another figure kind of wave as they begin walking up from a different direction. And it is actually Peter. And we'll meet Rufus at the door.
Obviously not panting because breathing. However, everything being okay.
And you can see he actually has some, like, his clothes are a little bit ripped around the collar, and there's what may have been some healed gashes there. There's a tiny bit of staining on the collar.
That is a gangrel.
Yeah. Did you see anything?
I believe I may have just seen one. Yes.
Great.
Head inside, at least that way we're not out in the middle of anywhere and people can come up and do whatever it is they want.
Right. Let me just... And he'll pull out his phone and send off a text message as he follows in. Have to let them know I lost it.
Decided to turn into a dog and run away. So
Fantastic.
chance I would keep up personally. That is something that you are able to do. I could be wrong, though.
No, I can't. That one was also really speedy. Even without the animal form. Some out-of-clan things, it looked like.
Dirty things that could potentially have been from Toreador or Bruja.
Yeah. Betting on the Bruja.
My chips would lie as well if I'd bet.
Haven't seen a Toreador tonight. Have seen a couple others.
For the better.
How have things been here?
Quiet up until the recent visitor that ran off. That is positive, but positive's relative in this particular situation.
It seems focused on some of the other borders, and not this one.
Which other ones? If you don't mind me asking.
The one closer to the Tremere, and the one closer to Cassidy.
The you know what I mean by that. Need help. Willing to at least attempt.
Nothing huge has happened. It's just hit and run tactics right now. I had to guess they're stalling or doing something.
Do we know who they are yet?
Bunch of random kindred who most of us have not seen.
If any of you can get pictures and send them to me, I may have seen them. I'm better traveled than most here.
Unfortunately, we don't really have time to stop and take a picture of them.
That's why I said if.
As they're trying to claw us up.
What did that to you? Is there anything specific that you remember about them, or is it just very run-of-the-mill, nondescript?
They were fast, but had a limp or something.
Right one.
Well, at least there wasn't another one.
Frankly, I'm surprised that it could do that to you.
Out of nowhere. They said hit fast. Didn't even get to see him before. Hit and run.
I really wish I had some way of helping with that part of it. I don't. All guerrilla warfare hit and run tactics, it's continued to be an issue.
They're definitely harrying us for something, and I am worried about what that is. They haven't caused too much damage or destruction yet, almost like they know the cat can typically sense when new people come into the domain.
they have prior knowledge of the area, at the very least.
Yeah.
Power holders.
Appears to be so. At least enough to cause issues.
At this point, Rufus will pick up his phone and start going through the list of power holders, just checking in, as well as with Selena and Hunter as well, and Spike and Buffy.
Sylvia?
Yes, Sylvia. Sorry.
Selena is Kat's apprentice.
Yep,
All
I had
good.
the right person, wrong name.
Just making sure. Charlotte would get back with you relatively quickly, saying that she is having some troubles, but nothing hugely so. Nothing from Valentina. Do you message Ellie? You could have gotten the number through various means.
He honestly, at this point, would.
So you would not receive a response yet. Nothing from King if you message him again. Who am I missing? I think Valentina. Does he message Cassidy?
No.
Okay. Charlotte's. Nothing from Kat. And then would Leon be one who he messaged as well?
He does have the contact information, so he would absolutely.
He does. Okay. So he would get back. Had some people at the gates, not sure what's going on yet.
He would get back with Leon. Just stay safe and have your associate also stay as safe, please. We
But of
assume
course.
that they are. We assume that they are strategically, or not as strategically, attacking places that may cause problems.
Interesting. And then he would not receive anything else back after that. Still nothing from Ellie. Leave. Would he message? He would only have Uriel's number for the pyramid, I believe. No one else's. So he can't message anyone there. I believe I hit all of the major power holders that he would have contacts with, correct?
And then the Thin Bloods as well.
Okay. So, who would he contact for that? Chris, T, or probably not Rose, but Chris or T?
Chris and T
Okay.
in a group.
Okay. T would get back to you quicker. And it would be a lot of shorthand and abbreviated words and things like that. Keeping an eye out. Notice a lot of movement down here tonight, and then suddenly stop, trying to figure out what's going on. And then Chris would just kind of send a finger emoji pointing up.
Would respond with, stay in a safe spot, don't pursue. It seems like a lot of hit and run tactics. I don't want you to be involved if we can avoid it.
He'd get an okay, I will from Chris. and an emoji of the rolling eyes from T.
Safety, just trust me on this. I may be able to get you safe passage through Katarzyna's domain.
For what purpose?
If you need it.
Nothing's happened to us yet. Like I said, things got quiet all of a sudden down here.
That's what concerns me. More than
Same
anything.
with me.
You give Peter the updates of that. Let's report back. Sure, it means more from you than from me at this given point in time.
Yeah, and he quickly gets on his phone, and he actually makes a phone call, and you can kind of hear Borea on the other line. And he relays what you had given him, and then quickly gets off the phone after.
Well, you should just sit if you wanted to, but that's only if you want to. We can honestly just sit in silence if that's what you really want. Or if you need to be going, I'm not going to keep you.
I got a few more minutes before I need to make my way back out. We're kind of doing rotations, kind of not. Someone's supposed to pop in here every now and then to check, so this is my turn.
Take a rest. I know we don't necessarily need it, but it still feels nice to get off the feet every once in a while.
That it does. And he will take a seat. Not super close to Rufus, but enough that talking is comfortable still.
Rufus would all light small talk. It wouldn't be anything as in depth with as he did with
Varia. Yeah, and Peter would oblige. He would talk. He seems not open, but obliging and a little bit more personal than you may have expected.
And at some point in there, he would apologize for the previous meeting.
I don't appreciate feeling threatened around the people I choose to surround myself by and with.
That was not my personal intention when I went in there. I was going to question you, and it had the very real potential of being accusatory. However, it was not supposed to be threatening on my end at the very least.
Is Rufus lying? Or would you like to make a manipulation check, or is he being truthful?
He was being truthful. It wasn't meant to be threatening. It definitely, absolutely was going to be accusatory, and that was what he was going to go for.
Peter would stay quiet for a moment, just appraising, analyzing, looking you over. And I'll nod. I believe you. I believe it wasn't exactly your intention as to how things happened. So thank you.
feel like even though I'm not necessarily anybody's owner, being somewhat of a supervisor, I guess, definitely not a boss, but supervisor, seemed fitting. And since we are alone and can actually talk for half of a second, it would be beneficial for me to at least try to clear the air and attempt to make some sort of a reset between us two.
That would be nice, having, if not positive, then at least amicable relationships between other kindred, not of my own clan, is always nice.
I have to step away for just a second. I do apologize. So, dogs are outside. They're barking. So,
Okay. We'll go ahead and do that. So, we'll just be a moment. Our 3 new kindred have not been having anything noteworthy happen yet. So, we can't even check on them currently. But that's fine. Let's see, we're probably about halfway or just past halfway into the night. At this point, Lottie would have been getting to the cave system that she was at with Willow. William would have been, I believe, getting to the caravan drop-off location at this point and beginning that transaction. And then what was Uriel had been doing at this point? I believe getting to the DIA, possibly having their mind altered with an interaction. I believe that is where we're sitting with the rest of the coterie currently at this point in time. What lovely happenings we have here this evening.
Totally normal. Everything's fine.
I'm sure the blood drop-off is going to go off without a hitch.
Yes. Yep, nothing. No ambushes or anything will happen there. Nothing's going to happen in the cave system. Nothing's going to happen to the DIA, right? Why would I do that?
Yeah. Like I said, everything's normal and perfect. Lottie's just a control freak and can't let Willow do anything herself. Everything's fine.
I assume you didn't get to hear that. All good. We just kind of recapped where everyone would have been sitting at this point of the night, because we're just past midnight. We're somewhere around 1 o'clock in the morning, I believe, right now.
Happy? Good.
So, Peter's sitting there conversing with you.
This is a personal offer. Obviously, you don't have to take me up on it. However, if you ever need any help, something that I wouldn't get in trouble with helping you with, and B, something that you wouldn't necessarily want Kat's help with, because it is either too menial or something that she wouldn't necessarily do herself, but you do need help. Let me know.
You rarely does things herself. It's usually others that have tasks set to them. In good faith, I offer the same. Not anything that would get me in trouble with her.
I would never intentionally get anybody in trouble. Unless, of course, it was for an extremely good reason.
It is.
And at that point, I would advise you prior to me doing it of this may get you in trouble. So it is completely up to you as to whether or not you want to do it.
It is difficult to avoid all forms of that with us and being what we are, but I appreciate it.
All things considered, relatively decent relationship with Kat and the entire family, so I would like to keep it that way if at all possible.
I am surprised by that, by the way. How did you manage that, if you don't mind me asking?
Being respectful is the majority of it. Requesting, once I figured out the situations, requesting access as per the old ways of your clan to certain parts, and he kind of waves his arms. On occasion, goes a long way.
I did wonder why you got sent here.
Bit of a story that really too long to tell right now.
Well, maybe I'll take you up on that someday.
Assuming we both have time.
Assuming we have time. I likely need to be leaving soon. Was there any last minute things you needed?
That I can think of currently. I do appreciate the check-in and the update. I assume it'll be a semi-regular interval for the next visitor.
Should be barring any issues.
And above table, about how long for the intervals? I'm assuming like every 2 hours, every hour.
2 to 3 hours. Yeah. His was a little bit less than that, just because he was already here chasing someone. But between Vincent and Varia was about 2.5-ish hours.
Okay. You will start a mental clock, which is mental clock's probably not the greatest in the world, but it's still a clock, so.
He's got a phone to check time, it's fine.
Yeah.
So Peter will take his leave unless Rufus had anything else to say to him.
No, he doesn't.
Okay. So, one more check.
Four successes.
Okay. So keeping an eye out more so on the window specifically, as he had already seen someone walk past, he does see a couple things moving, but they are farther out and just kind of people darting across open spaces, but again, it's not close to the church. And no one appears to be making their way over necessarily. And then after about an hour, Sylvia would get back with him, finally.
Okay.
2 fires. Small, though. Got taken care of pretty quickly. Still trying to figure out how that happened.
What were the fires? Literal fires or?
Yes. Literal fires. And you'll get a picture of a building that has some scorch marks on it. And it is probably one of the empty buildings, but not 100% sure.
Okay. I thank you for taking care of that. I'm sure Hunter filled you in doing repayment for previous favors owed.
Yes, we're all together tonight.
That being said, if anything major happens, let me know. I'm not necessarily bound here, but doing as requested.
So far, this is the biggest thing that has happened. Saw a handful of people running around, but the minute we got close, they bolted, and we almost caught one of them, but then the fires happened.
If you do manage to catch one, please don't kill it.
No, that would be too easy, wouldn't it?
Yes, I believe we have multiple people that will need some explanation. It seems like these random happenings are going on all over the city.
Are they?
What I am hearing.
That's not good, given the date.
Can I make some sort of check for Rufus
Yes.
to realize?
I know your intelligence isn't the greatest. Is wits better?
Wits is 1 better.
Okay. Do you have any in occult or etiquette?
I have more in etiquette than I do occult.
I'll let you have etiquette. And go ahead and add a dice just for backstory stuff.
And willpower.
Okay.
To attempt to get more than 3.
It doesn't fully register at first. He can probably figure out the date is important, but not quite remember why or where he knows it's important from.
Okay.
Like, it is a significant date, but can't remember the why.
You would absolutely try to sit there and legitimately figure it out, think about it before responding.
Okay. She wouldn't text back immediately. Potentially taking care of something else, not 100% sure. In the meantime of that, you would get a message from Officer Robinson, actually. And it's kind of a longer one. A little bit rambling. Talks about the fires that happened in what would be your domain, that they've had a lot of reports of violent assaults on what he would know to be the border of Kat's domain. Some other assaults happening in Charlotte, what he would know to be Charlotte's domain. Nothing huge, but there are a couple other fires. One of them in Valentina's area. Seemed there's been some break-ins and things like that as well. Downtown. And she would just give this like list of things. And then kind of end it with, it's been a really weird night. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's weird.
Have there been arrests made?
I'm not sure.
And I would assume that we don't have pictures of anybody.
No, it's... Did he ask her that?
Yes.
I don't. No one has sent anything. We've all been really busy tonight.
If there's something that I can do to help you, please let me know. I know being civilian, it's frowned upon, but there may be things that I might be able to help, at least spiritually or emotionally.
He'll get SRYGTG and then nothing else from her.
And is that something that she normally does?
No. No, she normally is pretty composed when she messages him.
He would actually immediately call King.
Okay. Good pickup.
I know you have a lot of things going on tonight.
You
but
don't
can
say.
I get you to... I will pay you or do favors for you. I don't care. I need you to track a number. I have a odd message that came from somebody that doesn't usually send messages as such.
Fine, what's the number?
He would give the number.
Okay. You can hear lots of quick keystrokes. I got this. King gets lots of dice here.
I assume so.
Wow, that's a lot. 10 successes with a crit.
Goodness, okay.
Yeah. So pretty immediately, it's moving pretty quick. Looks like it's in a car.
Okay. Can you tell me which way it's moving?
Yeah, give me a second. More keystrokes.
If there's any possible way of you sending like something to me that gives me updates, I would be appreciative.
Your phone will actually ping with a kind of a blurry picture, not quite sure what it's taken from, but it's just the cop car. And it's hard to make out the details, but appears to be a woman driving it.
Is it the correct woman? Is the next question.
Roll wits and either awareness or insight.
Same, so I will just
Okay. It is blurry
right.
and pixelated because there was movement.
Yeah, I am absolutely building or burning another willpower.
Sure.
Two successes.
Hair color looks like it might be correct. And King will get back on and give you kind of the crossroads as to where that picture was taken at. And it is where he knows to be her route to be.
Are you able to do auto updates for me? I don't want to keep you on the phone. I don't want to keep you tied up if you can't.
What kind of updates do you want? Like where they are, random pictures? I need to know what to set up.
Where they are is better, but pictures are acceptable if that's all you can do.
Sure, give me 10 minutes.
Thank you, and just let me know what I owe you.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. And then King will get off the phone with you. And a few minutes later, you do start to receive pings on your phone. And it is kind of it pulls up into a map, and it every once in a while will update with the location.
You will honestly probably obsessively try to update it.
It will just occasionally refresh and it will move. And then randomly it will start moving again, but it doesn't stick at one area a super long time. And again, it mostly stays on what he knows her patrol route to be, but it does veer off occasionally.
After a little bit, he would send another message, like, just please let me know that you are, in fact, safe.
Another 10, 15, 20 minutes goes by, and during that time, the updates have it in a single location. And then about the 20-minute mark, in the normal way she typically messages, very busy tonight, don't really have a lot of time. Good for now.
I assume they're halfway across the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is going to contact our new gang girlfriend.
Alex.
Yeah.
Okay.
How busy are you currently?
Couple minutes. I'm not. What do you need?
Do you have transportation?
I have a bike.
Pedal bike or a motorcycle?
Pedal. Electric, but not quite a motorcycle.
Can I ask you, well, first off, where are you?
It's actually the location that he gave them before, one of his stop points. Okay. That's where the crossroads they would give are.
So, somewhere that she's been?
She is in Robinson?
Yes.
Not too far past, but that was about half an hour ago she passed it.
You take a ride up, and he'll give the address, and just poke around. I don't want you to engage anyone. I have a friend there that is working tonight, and it seems to be a bit hectic. Just need, if you're able to take a decent picture,
Sure.
if you're able to take it, then please do. If you're not, then don't get caught and don't get in trouble.
Who am I looking for?
It is a police officer. And he would give the general description.
Yeah, I can do that. And Rufus actually would receive an update ping. The car has begun moving again.
He would give updates as needed.
Okay. Alex will continue. It's gonna take me some time to get there, but yeah, I can make my way over that direction. Should I expect anything? I've heard some noises tonight, that's why I stayed in.
Not necessarily. However, if you run into anything that you see as potentially problematic, turn around. Don't risk it.
Okay.
I will make it worth your while in the long run, I promise you.
On my way out. And then he'll only receive Ks or OMWs when he gives updates. And the police car hasn't stopped moving for that long again yet. Maybe 10, 15 minutes at most, and then gets moving again.
Okay. I half feel bad for making him run around the city, but, you know.
They weren't doing anything else. It's fine. So, the next little bit happens. And before he receives any updates from Alex, I'm blanking on a name. Give me one moment, please. Just writing down a name. My bad. Anita. Anita comes up, and he sees her walking up, and she comes into the church.
Greet her.
Hi. She looks like she's been not super roughed up, but maybe got into a small altercation as well.
Is there anything that I can immediately help with?
Nope, just doing the check-in since about that time, and I was the closest.
Appreciate it. I don't have a whole lot to report here. I've seen people off in the distance running around, but not anything overly close.
Lucky you. These hit and runs are getting on my nerves.
Tempted to be a little bit more useful.
feel free, I guess. We'll just pop over here a little bit more often. And he would receive a message from Alex during that conversation. And it's across the street, and probably they are in an alley or something. It's a picture of Robinson and a partner that they're working with currently. And they are apparently stopping at some B&E. And then the message will come through. That's them, right? Don't want to get in trouble here.
That is, in fact, them. Thank you very much. That's something concerning come through on their end. So just wanted to make sure. They apparently have been very, very busy.
There's a lot of stuff happening tonight.
Start to type out, do you know what is significant about tonight? But then he would delete it. He'd be like, just head back home, stay safe.
You sure? I can kind of tail them. Don't want to get caught, though.
If you feel safe enough to do that, and confident enough that you can, you're more than welcome to. I'm not going to ask you to stay out any longer than you already have to.
I will let you know if anything happens.
Thank you very much. Again, I'll make sure that you are compensated.
Okay.
He will turn back to Anita. I do apologize. That was part of the reason why I want to be a little bit more useful.
You got your own things to take care of.
Any more major news that we know about?
Jan killed one of them. Didn't get to keep them alive, unfortunately. Went a little too overboard.
Probably rightfully so. Do you know if there's any significance about tonight?
Other than it being crazy as hell out there, I have no idea.
The date, specifically.
The 6th?
Yes.
Beats me. Let me double check something. Still think. You know, now that you mention it, a handful of years ago, something like this happened too. Didn't it? She's just kind of talking to herself at that point. I wasn't like this at that point, but I remember there was like a lot of crazy stuff happening when March a couple years ago. Well, more than a few. Maybe 10 years ago.
Does that hold any significance to Rufus?
Give me another check. Same dice pool as before.
With the extra from...
Yeah.
With the extra, okay. Sure. Tempting to get 4. I got 3.
You got 3 last time too, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Let me check one thing. Okay. So he would have been in Detroit at that point in time. He vaguely remembers there was some heavy Sabbat activity at that point in time. About 10, 15 years ago was kind of when they started to dwindle down. Still doesn't 100% connect the dots as to the date, but he does remember there was Sabbat activity at that point in time.
He will... Does he have Deidre's number?
Yes.
He will contact the Tremere that potentially could be available.
Okay.
With odd question, is there any connection between March and the Sabbat?
About 5 minutes goes by. That's an odd question.
Right, with the happenings tonight, had a couple people say something about a date and then some similar events about 10 years ago when they were around.
Today's the 6th, isn't it?
Yes.
Don't they have some sort of thing they do this week? I've never super studied up on them, but I remember something about the second week of March. And that
Good.
would click with him. Given the 2 previous rolls of 3, that would knock it down.
That's
He
not
rolled
good.
4.
Yeah. You would just get a that's not good. Please alert Charlotte of that fact that this probably has something to do with Sabbat and it's probably not going to be the last night of this.
Damn it.
Figure you'd be close.
Yeah. I'll go talk to her.
Thank you. At which point he will fire off messages to everyone of, hey, we might have a week of this. So be ready. It is an issue.
Would he only send that to the power holders? Would he send that to basically the whole contact list?
It would be the power holders, including King. He would assume that the person that alerted him of the date would know. And at that point, he would honestly probably try to send a message to Officer Robinson of, I have rumors of this might be going on for a couple days. Please be safe.
He wouldn't receive a message from her, but the location pings would show the car moving, so he obviously wouldn't get a message from her anytime soon, most likely. And it is kind of pushing on 3-4 o'clock now, so it is getting very late. Or very early, I should say. Is he verbally saying all of this out loud to Anita as well, or at least the revelation?
There would be a lot of swear words when he gets to the revelation, and just hold on just a second. But he would send the message to Kat as well, and Boria in case.
You would actually get a direct message from Kat herself. I see. That is what's going on, is it? I appreciate that. Thank you. And it would come slowly. She doesn't text very often.
I believe so. Had I realized earlier in the night this could have potentially been headed off. That being said, I will let Anita know, because she is here with me currently, that I feel like my presence might be best suited physically helping rather than just watching a location, if that is okay with you.
That is your choice. I wanted to make sure that you had the option to watch over somewhere that is special to you.
That's very gracious of you, and I do appreciate it. Again, I'd like to apologize for any transgressions that I may have done. I hope that we can eventually work past them, though we will likely never forget what happened.
That is a discussion for later. There are larger issues at hand. All is, at least, temporarily forgiven.
At which point he would relay a lot of this to Anita.
She starts
Specifically,
swearing.
He would at that point use the buzzwords that he would not use on text message.
Yeah.
Sabat, and if he knows what they actually call that week, he would specifically say that.
I would say not with the threes, but he knows it's a significant week.
At which point he's like, I am going to go take care of things elsewhere. Try to quell as much of this as I can personally. This is obviously going to be an ongoing issue. So.
Lovely. And she'll check the time. Be careful depending on what you do. The rest of us are going to be turning in soon.
Right. Wonders of being who I am and what I am. I take mine with me.
Perks and downsides.
Stay safe. Get back home if that's where you're going to be heading.
Yes. I think all of us, like I said, will all be turning in relatively soon. Hopefully some of them miss the time.
Okay. With that, Rufus will gather all of his things, including his safe.
Okay.
Take it all back to the van, not necessarily put it all away, but he would put it in the back and make sure it's going to be okay.
As he gets to the van, he would receive a message from Robinson. Where did you hear that? From who? Is it someone we can talk to?
It's a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend type deal. It is just a rumor. I don't want to necessarily 100% say anything, but you keep you prepared, at least I would like to give a rumor. If it turns out to be not true, good.
Thanks.
And at that point, he will hop in the van, start it up, and start heading that way, generally speaking.
To where Robinson is-ish?
Yeah.
Or, okay. So her path kind of travels, so.
Yeah, he'd try to somewhat head off a little bit so he can put eyes on and then drive away.
I'd say he's proficient enough in the roads in the city at this point that he could do that. And he probably knows her route pretty well.
At which point he would also send a message to Alex of, go ahead and go home. I've got it from here.
Thought
Thank
that
you.
was your van I saw. Let me know if you need anything else. Then very vaguely he can hear bzzz of the far off bike, electric bike.
Yeah. He would not necessarily attempt to like hide the fact that he's somewhat trying to stay in the area, but he's definitely not gonna be like on top of her the entire time.
Okay. And at this point it is pushing into 4:30, 5 o'clock, so the day's sleep is coming soon. Like very soon.
He will wait until as close to the last possible second as he feels comfortable.
Okay. So he does see her car drive by. He does get a visual on her. And she seems to slow down when she recognizes the van is there, but continues on. Nothing looks wrong with the car, but the sirens do kick on when they're maybe a block away again.
He will get ready for some sleep.
Okay. So, you were sitting at 2 hunger. The day sleep happens. He is unaware of anything that transpired past when he slept. But he comes to the next night. And please give me a rouse check.
This is a problem.
Why is that? He at 3?
Yes.
Okay. So immediately upon waking, he can feel the hunger of the beast in that hollow part of his gut. What would he like to do?
Ignore it as best he can for now.
Okay. Within 20 minutes of him waking up, he would receive a text from Charlotte asking where he is.
I can be at your door as soon as you feel that I need to be.
Please do. I think we have something to talk about and a place to go.
Be there shortly.
If he does check messages, he would see that he missed a couple during the day from various ghouls. I'm just saying, kind of like random sporadic updates from some of them. Not, well, his ghoul too. That a couple odd things happened, but from Charlotte's ghoul, a number he doesn't recognize, but introduces themselves as from Katarzyna. And again, giving a couple updates on what happened into the early hours of the morning. And then one from Charlotte Katz, his own. That was it, I'm sorry. And then one from Leon that came probably just as he woke up, asking people to, and it was a group chat actually, asking for people to come by. Charlotte's just was the newest one when he checked his phone.
So yeah, he would take less time getting ready, change clothes, brush hair, head down to Charlotte's.
Okay. So he arrives there relatively quickly. He probably wouldn't have been parked very far away, honestly.
And this time he's less worried about appearances, so he will park a little bit closer to the actual physical building.
Right. So Lawrence is waiting outside for him, and actually, so is Charlotte, and a nicer looking blacked out vehicle. And she is standing next to it, and she's not in her typical dress. She's still in a nice outfit, but this one is pants and seemingly more comfortable shoes.
And he just kind of looks and like, it's one of those trips. Got it.
Yes, it is. We are on our way to see the cemetery. Would you like to ride with me?
That might be better.
Feel free to leave your van here. If you're comfortable, Lawrence will move it around where we keep our own vehicles.
He would hand Lawrence the keys, like, just please make sure it's locked.
Nothing's going to be touched. Everything will be locked. It's where we keep Charlotte's and our own work vehicles.
Thank you. And thank you, Lawrence, for taking care of that for me.
Of course. So, enter. I have had some talks last night when certain people came back home. So, let's have some discussions. You said that it was the Sabat that did this, and she's getting into the vehicle, and there is someone driving, and she's sitting in the back with you. And it's not super stretch, but there's 2 seats facing each other.
That is what Deidre alluded to. I knew that I'd gotten information that there was a significance of the date, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it until Deidre said something to that effect. It helps to know people that are smarter than myself.
It does, doesn't it? I'm very happy to have her in my employ.
One of the few Tremere that are absolutely helpful.
Paid well to be.
Yeah,
So
that is what I understand at the very least.
I spoke with Joseph after he returned back from an errand last night and confirmed with what you and Deidre said. It is very much that this week.
Obviously going to be a problem.
Yes, it is. They have been quiet the past few years. And I'm wondering why they are starting now.
Nothing to do with the fact of I don't know how many rumors you've heard, but we had suspicion that one of the major players in the city might have ties to. And this time it actually wasn't the Ravnos.
Yes, I'm willing to bet that is where Fred went, if I had to wager a guess, given the updates of movement and where it appears to be. Plus the whole siring a thin blood and then dropping almost out of existence.
I don't know if this is going to make it any more concerning, but you know where the thin bloods typically like to stay, right?
I don't typically deal with them. I know Daedra does some dealings with them.
They are at, well, I believe they call it an art park. It's where people go to spray paint things. However, it is, to the best of my recollection, in Cassidy's domain.
Okay.
De facto leader told me last night that there was heavy traffic at the beginning of the night, then absolutely nothing afterward.
Well. Could be they're chasing people off. Could be something else.
At which point, he's going to pull out his phone and is like, would you like me to give them a call again to see if there's a similar pattern?
The thin blood?
Yes.
Probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
On speaker. He will call T.
Shortly after the phone starts ringing, she'll pick up. Yeah. It's been a crazy night.
Kind of similar to the beginning of last night.
A little bit. Less weird. They spread out real soon after waking up.
Faster than they did last night, I assume.
Mm-hmm. A couple more of them, too.
That's actually exactly what I was going to ask. No major problems yesterday, though?
Not here. Heard there was some shit going on elsewhere, but not here.
It'll just kind of give Charlotte a look of, I think we know where they're coming from.
So it's like, interesting. And then she'll kind of address the phone. Dear, do you have a means of transportation? Then Teal will get quietly. Who's that?
That would be Charlotte, the leader of the Toreadors. We are attempting to get to the bottom of what is going on. I'm going to make a request of you, because you seem to be the kind of the leader of. Please meet us. Kind of looks at Charlotte. Assume at the, well, already said the graveyard. The large cemetery north of the city, please.
And she'll think for a minute. That really, really big one where a bunch of famous people are buried?
Yes.
Yeah, I can be there.
I appreciate it. Getting the information from the source is probably best at this given point and you seem to be the best source of information we have regarding movements.
Right. If I'm going to make it there quick, I do need to go. Need to figure out someone's vehicle to use.
Chris, tell him that I told him to loan you his vehicle, or whatever he's using, or the ghoul's vehicle. I don't care.
Okay, thanks. And then she'll hang up.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I was going to suggest that.
So I think we have a soft confirmation of exactly where they're coming from.
I would say so. Interesting. You guys are almost there at this point. The conversation with T took a minute. And kind of as you pull up, everyone is there. All of the big names in the city seem to be at the entrance, and Leon is there as well. Well, time to go make some sense of all this, I suppose.
Has T arrived yet?
He is not there quite yet, no.
Blake, can you please leave your associate out here? There is one other individual that is coming.
Who does he say
might
that
make
to?
A little bit. Leon.
Okay, sorry.
They might be able to make a little bit more sense of this than we can collectively.
Who are we waiting on?
It is a thin blood. Their leader, as it were.
Yes, Elizabeth can stay out here.
Thank you.
Elizabeth will nod. We are not actually going in. This happened on the outside of it, but I still noticed it. And I'll start leading everyone. And everyone's talking, and Rufus can kind of hear some of the situations that happened in the other domains. How Valentina had something in her care be attacked and tracked down. Charlotte talks about how one of her shipments got attacked and that there was several B&Es in the area. Kat herself is there, actually, and describes the hit-and-run things that had happened. There is actually someone I don't think Rufus would recognize there. A well-put-together man. And he talks about how the museum got set on fire a little bit last night. Or not the Art Institute. The DIA.
You would assume at that point they're the regent. Or close to a regent.
Someone in a higher standing of the pyramid. Absolutely.
He will, for the most part, be quiet. Because the updates that he got from his particular area are a couple small fires. Major, so.
Yes, and you would not have received any other major news. Maybe one or two more small ones. Again, more B&Es. But nothing crazy in Rufus's area. Almost like someone didn't perceive him as a threat.
Good.
Noticeably, Cassidy is not here, and neither is Ellie. So Leon brings everyone around the back, and during the walk, would Rufus like to engage with anybody specifically?
Specifically, you would want to engage more with Charlotte than anyone.
Okay.
Just kind of getting details of what happened during the delivery. Don't care about what the delivery is. Kind of the same thing with Valentina of like what happened and if there was anything found that shouldn't have been there.
So Charlotte would explain that on a trip outside the city to pick up some things for her club, that actually she says William was involved with this, that they were attacked on their way back.
You will, when she says William was involved, we'll double check that he doesn't have any messages from any of the coterie members.
I'm sure he would, but okay. What would each of you like to have sent Rufus when you awoke that night?
Uriel had sent a text the night the DIA got set on fire saying, "Call me tomorrow night."
William, so there's some weird stuff going on. Hope you're all right.
Lottie will say much the same. Got roped up into something major. I'm fine. Hope you're okay too. A lot of craziness going on last night.
And he will read them. He won't necessarily respond. He will definitely read them. Like, okay, well, at least they're all alive. And then go back to the conversations.
Charlotte will detail out that they were attacked on their way back. Everyone made it fine. Seemed to outdrive whatever they were attempting to do, but there was an attack made on a relatively unknown shipment, so someone leaked that. And Valentina will actually respond without any passive aggression or anything like that, that something she was in the care of got sniffed out and attacked by multiple people, and that Lottie was involved in that as well.
Hearing all that, well, it is good to know that the people that I choose to associate with are at least somewhat capable of not dying when things hit the fan.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, they could have probably done better, but given the circumstances, I will absolutely take what has been given.
Right. Well, hopefully we can figure out what's going on here. And you guys are actually brought, at this point, the walk has been going on for a few minutes now. But there is a large, almost pit. It's not extremely deep. And it is gory in this pit. And Rufus... would Rufus have been around something like this before?
Probably.
Okay. He knows exactly what this is then. And tied up around the edge are 3 very hungry looking kindred.
Assume I'm not the only one that understands what this is.
Charlotte speaks. I have been told about this. I've not seen one in person. Cat will interject here. I have seen this, and I do not wish to have seen it again. And, Valentino will just kind of stand stiffly and kind of look confused, but not overtly so. And the Tremere seems to be getting a little angry.
I believe the term is called shovel heading. And we have 3 very new, very potentially malleable kindred on our hands. Assuming that everybody wants to take the time to attempt to nurture them.
No, we don't have many options, do we?
Do not.
What would you 3 be doing right now? You are bound currently on the ground. Not laying down. You are sitting up, but you are fairly thoroughly bound.
Gagged as well.
Potentially. If you had caused issues prior, then yes. I will leave that up to you.
Voters was definitely gagged just because they do not shut up. They are trying to speak through the gag.
Naya would just be staring hungrily at the group, occasionally twitching.
I assume Jim would be more thoroughly bound than the other 2 because he's probably made multiple escape attempts.
Yeah.
They make an argument for why we don't the issues. But I necessarily know if that would be the best idea right now. But he'll kind of look around and try to see if there's any wildlife around that might be catchable.
You can look, but with all of the noise, the gore, the viscera, there is not really anything here. And
Just looking for a quick snack.
Yeah, there's
or other people.
Not really anything here. Although, within a couple minutes of you guys getting to the pit, T comes up and she's jogging to get there faster.
Well,
And she'll get up there. Oh boy.
Yes. This is the thing. Everyone, this is the thin blood that I was telling you about, T.
There's a lot of people here. What did you need me here for?
Well, your eyewitness account of exactly where they seem to be coming from. Because if they show up in mass and leave and then come back at the end of the night, which is what you said, right?
That does look like what happened.
So, I'll kind of turn to everyone. Can we all agree that they're probably coming from Cassidy's domain?
It
It's
would,
generally that area.
it would appear as such, wouldn't it?
Here, as though we have two options. And we're not counting these three quite yet. Option one, we sit on our thumbs and just let them do what they want, which I know at least one of us is absolutely not going to let happen. And two, we make an effort to keep them from spreading. Probably more of them than there are of us that are capable of being spared. Keep that in mind. This is an issue, and this is a continuous issue until we cut the head off the snake and make sure the body is burned. Either being a resolution.
At this time, kind of everyone starts to notice there's another set of footsteps coming up. 2 sets of footsteps, actually.
Rufus will reach into his jacket pocket and make sure that his firearm has a loaded and chambered round.
It doesn't. Everyone seems to be a little bit on the defensive as the footsteps come up, and one of them seems to be struggling, which is where the noise is coming from. And out of the short distance, you guys can see Ellie coming up, actually. And she's dressed down a little bit. Still has a mask over her face, as is typical. And kind of struggling, but also not able to break away. There is another kindred that she's pushing towards everybody.
Wonderful. And I'm not actually saying that about you, Ellie. I'm saying about them. Pleasure to have you join us.
Yes, I didn't quite get the memo to come here. Well, not from you all. But I figured I'd bring a guest.
Assume this is prisoner of war.
Well, it appears that they came from this disgusting thing. Now, why don't you tell them what you told me? And the kindred is just glaring up a storm and doesn't seem to be talking quite yet, but reluctantly trying to not open their mouth. It appears that there might have been something done to force them to be listened to.
Now, I highly recommend you speak. She does to you, I don't really care. She can do a whole lot worse mentally than most can, from what I understand.
You can see the smile happen from behind the mask, so it's a big one.
Now, Rufus at this point will actually walk over to the, well, I guess Naya. Kind of bend down and look her in the face and just like, what can you tell me?
You can see her visibly struggle. I don't, sorry, there was a hit. Fuck, I'm starving!
Yes, that happens. Well, worry. Actually, T, do you have any food sources on you?
What, you think I just walk around with shit?
Potential. Some of you, well, some of your friends, um, can't. So I don't know if you had them on you just in case. Anyway, I apologize.
Oh, my head hurts.
Actually,
All sticky. Ugh!
yeah, they are not clean. It's pretty gross. Leon will beckon his ghoul over, because she stayed. And he'll speak with her, and then she'll actually kind of go jogging off.
Head hurts. Did you get hit? Just a up and down, left and right work.
Motor
Maybe.
to the other side is all wiggly.
Take their word for it. Or anything about anybody that did this to you? Probably not, because most don't. But we're gonna at least attempt.
No, the hit kind of blinded me. I couldn't really see well. A lot of screaming. Then I got... I can't remember after that.
Everyone else as well. Typical. Say that we need to find more of these, but I believe everybody already understands that.
Find more? What? Why would you want to find more?
Ellie will speak up again. I don't think we need to worry about that. This one, despite not wanting to talk right now, did inform me that they saw a certain Bruja wearing their typical sweatshirt after they embraced them.
Yay!
This one, and you can kind of see a tiny bit of visible disgust on her face, is a thin blood from dear Cassidy.
No. So we have the report from the thin blood that we actually like, saying possibly, and then we have the one that we just met and we don't necessarily like yet, that says absolutely. And with the help of the one that we'd probably be a little bit nicer to be honest with you, figured all of this out in a matter of 15 minutes. Now you three sit tight. We're going to get you something to eat as soon as we can.
Leon will nod. Yes, I have her going and getting some things. Might take a moment. What I feed off of isn't typically what most can.
Each their own, and I don't want to be crying. However, it is nice to see you again, by the way. Wish it was under different circumstances.
Would be the ideal situation, unfortunately. This is where we're at.
gonna get any answers at any point tonight? I feel like you're speaking a whole fucking language that I have no idea what's going on.
And
Maybe it's just that I'm hangry, but someone clue me in already.
at that point, Rufus will bend down and look him in the face, like, "Be quiet, please."
Hi. Nothing
Because-
tonight has made any sense.
Let us get you something to eat, and then we will explain. Right now, you probably won't be receptive, so please be quiet. Now, and turning back to everybody else, there are other matters that. How are we going to go about keeping more of these from happening?
Well, I think when I walked up, you were saying to cut a certain head off of a snake.
Yeah, that is probably the most efficient way. However, in the meantime, can we find her?
I don't know. Tavius, what are you able to? And the Tremere that Rufus didn't recognize kind of speaks up. I don't know everyone's ability. I'm sure someone probably can track them down. And then the others will talk amongst themselves and come up with a pretty good negative on an easy way to track them down.
Being Rufus and be like, well, I have a proposal.
And what is
Out of every-
that?
Out of everyone here, I am the most expendable. I'll power the least amount of time out of everyone. I don't know exactly how old all of you are. I don't particularly care at this point. The newest, quote unquote, leader in the city, therefore, I feel like to keep all of you from potentially having further issues arise should something very bad happen. And, well, being Ravnos as I am, let me poke the bear, as it were. I will attempt to get in contact and call them out.
I will give you a nod, but T is like, what bear is that?
Cassidy.
Right, I thought the whole issue was finding her.
Right, and he will pull out his phone and be like, I have at least a number for them. And he will actually call them right then and there.
The number is blocked.
King.
He'll answer.
Do you have Cassidy's number?
Already been trying to find it because no one has heard from her. I managed to get a location, but it's not anywhere that's gonna do any good.
Taiwan or something?
Try the middle of the river.
kidding. He's stupid. Okay. Well. Okay. I think it's time for me to make a call to somebody I don't want to make a call to. Because I don't want you to potentially get into trouble for hacking into something that you're not supposed to be in and getting caught. At least this way I have a legitimate reason behind it.
Okay, I'm gonna keep trying to figure this stuff out. Can see some movements on whoever has cameras connected, but it's pretty sporadic.
I was thinking traffic cameras.
Right, that as well. Again, pretty sporadic. I'm working on it.
Yep.
There's very few of us to do that.
Yes. Maybe get a hold of Lottie and see if she can help. Might not necessarily be her thing, but
Good to know. And not super long after that, Elizabeth comes back. And she is carrying some bags. So who knows how good they'll be with the new kindred that are here, but maybe better than nothing.
we're just gonna look at the bags and be like, I grab one and like shove it into Naya's face and be like, bite it.
Naya will not hesitate. She will
Roll.
lie down and drain it. She has Iron Belly.
Oh, you did take that. Okay.
Yes, I did take Iron Belly.
Okay. So to knock off a hunger.
She will accept as many as she is offered.
For now, just one. Go around to everybody and just see.
Did you two pick merits?
I did not pick merits because I thought we wouldn't have to worry about it. I did take none for hunter preferences.
Not a big deal. I'm just asking. Roll me a black dice and let me know if it lands on a crit.
Ouch. Nope. Blank.
Okay. You do not have Iron Gullet. Then roll one for yours too. If you did, I don't know if you picked merits. I don't remember.
I gave merits, but not Iron Gullet.
Okay. Still go ahead and roll and let me know if you got the crit.
Got the crit.
Oh, okay. Then yes, you are able to accept it if you're fed as well. And then now on the one that Ellie has.
So,
And actually, we'll say Charlotte takes a bag and goes to Motor, and then T will take a bag to Jim. And then Ellie will take one for hers. And as stated, whoever had the merit can feed. Meaning just Naya and Jim.
give you more.
It's really, really gross. Oh, what are we doing? Hey, you guys, what the hell is a Ravnos? Why are you poking a bear? I don't understand any of this. Can you guys give us some answers? And why does that taste disgusting? I mean, like, I know it's blood, and blood should not taste good. But that tastes really, really vile.
Motor, shut up. It wasn't that bad.
It was horrible. I don't know how the hell you could drink that. It was...
that point, he'll turn the motor and just stare at her and be like, "Stop talking. Last warning, okay?" And then I'll make you, but not physically, because guess what? What drinks blood?
Oh,
My
you gotta be
cat?
fucking kidding. That's sick.
Welcome to the nightlife.
I want a refund.
Unfortunately, you don't get to have that.
No.
I would say touch your mouth, but your hands are currently bound. Well, you are what people like to call a vampire now. That's not what we call ourselves, though.
We're not gonna
We
be
will
like that
explain.
stupid movie in Twinkle in the Sun, right?
No. Well, we do twinkle, but it's because we burn. Now, good news. I don't think any of us are going to just outright kill you. Bad news. You're going to work for somebody. I don't know exactly who yet. We'll figure that out later. And at which point he would hoist at least Naya up if nobody else is hoisting anybody else up. He would go around and
Kind
do
of
that.
leaving them where they are.
If we would like to move them out of the middle of the, well, kind of open, get them to a place that maybe we can hide them if need be. Discussing this where people can hear. Good.
Right.
They have an apartment nearby? Why do we need to go somewhere else?
Cat will speak up at this point. Stop talking. We are discussing things. I am able to clean how this looks up. It will take some time though. So I will be here while the rest of you discuss things. I do not want any of them.
Offer somebody stay with you for protection, but I think you have it fully handled.
I will be okay. Thank you.
Anyway. Have we actually gotten names?
No.
Technically, you got motors because
Yes.
Naya called them out.
So we'll look at Naya and like, what is your name?
You can call me Naya.
And what's his name? Do you know?
No, I don't. I just heard them call that one Motor Mouth at one point. You can guess why.
Oh no, I'm saying the other one, the hog-tied one.
Yeah, no, I don't know him.
Yeah, what's your name?
Jim.
Well, Naya, Jim. I guess we're calling you Motor. Get up.
How am
Follow
I
me.
supposed to do that?
Jim is hogtied.
Yeah, he'll go over. He'll at least undo his feet.
Valentina will get real close to him and haul him up and like will not remove her hands off of him.
And Rufus will lead Naya and Motor. Personally.
And
doesn't see Naya as a problem. Motor, maybe.
And the others follow. Cat does stay behind, and Leon actually does stay with her for a few moments as they speak, probably discussing cleaning up the area. And T will edge closer to the one that Ellie is like frog marching. But Ellie is very clearly not wanting to deal with either of them.
We get far enough away and like into a better secured area, Rufus would do a very brief explanation of what's going to happen with them to them. They would kind of turn to everybody and like, does anybody require any assistance from any of these?
Well,
obviously.
And this is Charlotte speaking. Well, what are your skills? What are you good at?
Talking really, 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 really fast and hacking.
Do any of them show particular signs of a specific clan?
Oh, Motor does, absolutely.
Yeah, Motor does. Yeah. Kind of looks like a burn victim just all over their body.
That's kind of what I figured. But the other two, not so much.
Skills. I'm assuming you're not asking me about my ability to navigate Microsoft Word here.
No, this isn't a resume.
It sort of is.
Is a job interview, but not those skills.
How am I supposed to know what? Do we have like magic powers now or something?
And out of nowhere, Rufus will just kind of like clap and see if anybody like winces real fast, looking for like heightened sensors or whatever.
Do anyone have heightened senses?
Nope.
That takes one of them. It's kind of hard to explain. Certain bloodlines, as it turns out to be, make certain combinations of, as you say, superpowers. I would show you what I can do, except I'm a little bit hungry right now, and I don't want issues.
Is that the trade-off? We get like really cool superpowers, but we're not allowed to use them in front of normal people. Is that what's going on here?
Yes.
Great. Wonderful. Fantastic.
Some of us can be the center of a room without even trying. Others can make people do what they want. Then there are others that have supernatural senses. They hear really well, see in the dark, or see things that you normally wouldn't be able to see because of people like, and points at Motor, that can, and very typically does, turn invisible. Motor, I do apologize. You are at a severe disadvantage. You are going to have to stay away from people most of the time.
Oh no, how awful. I think that's the only way I can talk is if I'm with people in an actual room. You know, there's this thing, it's called the internet. You can talk to people over it, and I can talk as fast as I want, and most people don't even care. I can just talk.
Right. But they cannot see you. Okay?
Did I say that they could see me on the internet?
Good with electronics. We might actually have a use for you.
Is that a good thing? Does that mean that you're not going to kill me? Does that
Oh,
mean I
it's
get
fine.
something better to drink than that
No,
yucky
it's-
vile bag?
Yes, that's very, very good for you. As a matter of fact, I know somebody that has much of the same abilities that you do. That would probably be ecstatic for some help. Or I know somebody else that could probably use your abilities and knowledge that probably would be less ecstatic, but having the help would be nice. Now, you two, it's going to be difficult. I assume you were hogtied for a reason, Jim?
Yeah, the last things they did put me in didn't keep me in.
So, behind Rufus, kind of where he can't see, the three of you can see the well-dressed man, Octavius, brings out like a penknife and cuts his arm, and then begins to manipulate the blood, and it does a little like pattern in the sky before kind of dissipating.
Can we all do that?
That was forking awesome.
That is some of the magic that some of us can do.
Like I said, I would love to show you what I can do, but I don't want to risk it. Finds a type of magic, just not real magic. Now, that being said, what exactly is it that you did? If you don't mind me asking, I wasn't paying attention.
I was training to be in the MMA.
Oh, no, not you. And turns to one that he doesn't know, and I don't think he actually has the name for yet.
No, he does not.
You, I don't
Oh.
believe we've actually physically met.
Just a bit of Tremere's magic.
Desired effect was figuring out what plans or figuring out a location.
Showing some of the things we can do. As none of us display signs of things beyond motor there.
MMA, and you what are you good at?
I'd be good at
Are you particularly good with, I don't know, thievery? Or did you have a particular interest in mechanical repair type situations or electronics? Or were you like, just trying to get a general idea of what possibly you could be? Him, I assume, is either going to be Gangrel, Bruja, or potentially cover the others in a little bit.
Valentina will actually speak up now. The skills you had in life. What were you good at?
I was a teacher who taught girls track. I don't know.
I can take that one.
mean take?
Since we already all know who Motor is going to.
I don't know who Motor's going to. Who's Motor going to?
Call him King.
King?
He's not actually a king. It's probably a last name at some point. I don't know. So
Why don't I take these two? I'll explain some things and drop that one off with him on my way back.
everyone else is okay with it. Me.
Charlotte will agree, and so will the others eventually. And T will pipe up real fast. I want that one. And points to the one with Ellie. It's like, and Ellie's good. I didn't want this one anyway.
And we'll look at the invite. That's one of the ones that has an issue with your kind. That's okay. We're trying to be friends here.
And you don't see me doing anything about it, do you?
No, and that's why we're trying to be friends. Anyway. The other issues at hand. Need to make a phone call. Step away and call Officer Robinson. Actually call, not text.
You're muted, Faye.
Sorry. She answers rather quickly. She sounds tired. I don't have a whole lot of time. What's going on?
I have an organizer if you can get me a location. I will explain why I don't want you necessarily to bring other people in at a later date.
That's gonna be a tall order. Who?
I have a description. The name I don't trust is to be a real name.
Okay, give me what you can.
Give a general description of Ellie. Or not Ellie. Of Cassidy.
Yes.
Like, if that person is seen anywhere, you know where.
Obviously I can't stop everyone from going after them if I put this out there, so I know that everyone's gonna engage when possible.
Right. She seems unique enough that if you get a description from anyone else, let me know where they are, please. That's assuming they give a description. I don't really. Like I said, I will. When all of this dies down, I will meet you.
If she's that dangerous, why would I give you that information? You're asking a lot.
I'm going to explain things later. Don't want to bring you into what's going on my end without preparing you a little bit first. More than I really want to admit.
I'll do what I can.
Thank you.
I really do have to go. There's more reports tonight.
And stay safe.
Do my best.
When all of this dies down, we'll meet. And I'll tell you exactly what's going on.
Okay. I gotta go. Bye.
Yep. And he will hang up the phone and walk back to the group.
And during the time, discussions have been had. It appears that Ellie is interested in taking Jim. The others are hesitant, but aren't opposing. They're waiting on Rufus to kind of tip that scale.
I might have use for him, but I don't have as much use as you probably do.
If he doesn't work out with me, I'll send him to you. How about that?
Will work. Find somebody somewhere that you will work out with.
Lovely. Pleasure to see you all. And she kind of looks off into the distance for a minute, like cuts off mid-word. I need to be going. She'll turn to Jim. Follow me, please.
Safe.
And to answer your question, Cocia, I don't think Motor would stand still long enough for that to happen.
Yeah, after I said that, I was like, yeah, never mind. She's constantly just bopping around.
So Valentina gets Naya and Motor ready to go, leads them out to her car if no one else is opposing. And then Rufus is left with Charlotte, Leon, and then after a few more minutes, Kat comes back up.
Let everyone know I've called in a long shot of if Cassidy is seen, I am to be alerted and I will directly take care of it.
And who did you inform about this?
An extremely trusted individual.
Keep us informed if there is going to be a problem that pops up that you are aware of.
Take care of any problems that pop up because of me. However, I will at least let all of you know that there was one.
If we are going to deal with this sword that is popping up, we probably need to combine some resources.
I have limited resources available to me.
And
Why?
And some of us have plenty.
Give what I can.
You are taking the brunt of this. What I meant is, if you tell us what you need and where you need it, we will help.
I'll absolutely let everyone know. Being said, if I can't find Cassidy, get me and my group together, be somewhere in your domain.
Would you like me to send someone to yours?
Whoever you think would be best to appoint.
She'll nod, and Charlotte will actually speak up. I have 1 or 2 people I can send as well, if you wish someone to at least be in the area.
That a hands or two wouldn't necessarily hurt.
At least be around. And T is still there with the one that was not asked their name but refused to speak at all. Yeah, there's a bunch of us, so let me know if you need things watched. Anyway, I'm gonna go, because I'm gonna return your ghoul's car and get this one fed.
Please do. Again, after all this craziness is settled, I will be by and we'll talk.
Sounds good. Sounds like it's gonna be a minute, though.
Potentially. Hopefully less than a week.
Don't die.
No
And
guarantees.
She'll walk off with that 4th one. And Charlotte will give the goodbyes to Leon. Did you want a ride back?
That would probably be best. I do need to get my vehicle.
Of course. Well, let us make our way back then.
Way back, he would get a hold of every Coterie member.
And that is where we will leave off. In the not quite middle of the night, but pushing towards it. So, I think that's a good cutoff point. Announcements. Go to our website, totalpartykrit.com. All of our links and bios and everything can be found there. All of our games and where you can find them is on there as well. There is, unfortunately, unfillable, but there are new PDFs up that are the ones that I have made for the characters that I make and use, and I think some of the others use them as well if you want them. As I said, they are unfillable, but I enjoyed making them. It was quite fun. That's on there. Let's see. There is a link to Dice Legion, which you can follow to get a discount off of some really fun dice. They have more than just dice. It's dice and trinkets and dice trays and other things. Oh my. But we do get a little bit of kickback from that, but you save some money and help a small business there and help us too, which is always great. There is a link to our Patreon as well. Everyone knows how that works. If you can, that would be lovely. If not, we understand. And if you, whether you can or can't, please like, follow, subscribe, share, comment, the whole 9 yards. Everyone knows the whole thing by now, I think. What am I missing?
We are gonna have some personal downtime where we won't be streaming our games, right? Next week or the last 2 weeks.
Right, I meant from the normal. once. I was going to touch on that in a second here.
Oh. Then I'm just jumping ahead.
All good.
I think you're good.
So yes, as Cocia has started to say, with Blood and Hope Detroit, we are taking, I believe it's going to round off as 2 weeks of downtime from streaming. I need to figure out if I can do a live thing. I don't know how to do that, and I don't know if we can. However, what will be going up in its place, maybe not streamed, but what will be posted in its place is the character deep dives that we have been doing. I'm going to put all of them together and release it as one larger one or one or two larger ones. Haven't decided yet. And that way something will be available for people who are interested in Blood and Hope Detroit and listening or watching it. So that will be fun, and I hope all of you enjoy watching, listening to that. We are working on some of the projects that we had talked about or hinted at, alluded to, whatever. And that is going to be taking place during our Tuesdays, and we will get back with things after 2 weeks. And we will pick up at this lovely cliffhanger. But our other 2 games will be taking place as normal.
Yeah.
Okay. Did I miss anything?
I do not believe so.
All right. So, those of you who are watching, stick around if you want to see a deep dive. And for those who are not watching live, a deep dive will be posted with all 4 Coterie members relatively soon. So, thank you for watching. Or listening.